You know, in the world of science, a discovery is really only as good as your ability to share it. But for so many researchers, that last step, turning a super dense academic paper into a web page for the world to see, it's a total nightmare. It's tedious, it's time-consuming. So today, we're going to look at AutoPage, a new AI system that's designed to solve this problem, maybe for good.
So picture this. You've just made a huge breakthrough. The problem is universal, really. Whether you're a scientist or an entrepreneur, you have to bridge this giant gap between your complex, detailed work and a much wider audience. Sure, academic papers are amazing for detail, but let's be honest, they're a huge barrier for most people. Project pages are the answer, but building them by hand? That just steals precious time away from making the next big discovery.
And this is what the creators of AutoPage called the researcher's last mile problem. It's that final, absolutely crucial step of translating a really complex document into a clear, engaging, and interactive web page. When you do it manually, it is just a massive bottleneck.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Hours and hours spent just fiddling with templates, formatting text, trying to get images in the right place. This manual grind doesn't just eat up valuable time that could be spent on, actual new experiments, but it also leads to wildly inconsistent quality. And the result? Incredible science can get totally lost behind a poorly made website.
Okay, so we're in the age of powerful AI. The solution seems pretty obvious, right? Just feed the paper into a massive language model and ask it to build a website. It's a really nice idea in theory, but the reality? Oh, it's a lot messier.
Yeah, the promise is this one-shot miracle, a magic button. But the experiments show that when you give a complex, maybe 20-page paper to a single monolithic AI, what you often get back is just chaos. We're talking about bizarre layouts that make absolutely no sense, factual hallucinations, making things up, and absolutely no way for the original author to step in and fix things. For a task this complex, it just doesn't work.
And that right there is the core insight from the research. A single end-to-end command is just the wrong tool for the job. The problem demands a smarter, much more structured process, a really fundamental shift in how we think about automating this kind of creative work.
So, if a single giant AI fails, what's the answer? Well, AutoPage's solution is brilliant. Instead of one AI trying to do everything at once, it uses a multi-agent system. So don't think of it as a single brain, but as an entire team of specialized AIs all working together.
The best analogy is an assembly line. You don't have one worker build an entire car from scratch, right? You have specialists, one for the engine, another for the chassis, someone else for the paint job. A multi-agent system works exactly the same way, with each AI agent having a very specific role to play in building that final web page.
This whole approach is built on three core principles. First, it's a coarse-to-fine process. It starts with the big picture before it worries about the tiny details. Second, it's collaborative. It actually allows the author to jump in and provide feedback at key moments. And third, and this is so important, it has built-in quality control. There's a dedicated checker agent that verifies the work at each stage, which helps prevent errors before they even happen.
So how does this AI team actually work together? Well, the process is broken down into three pretty distinct phases, and each one has its own set of specialized agents and, of course, those all-important checkers.
What makes this work so well is the structure. It starts with an architect agent that reads the paper and creates a narrative blueprint, like a storyboard for the web page. Then, a team of creative agents gets to work writing the text and picking out the right figures and tables to support that story. A content checker verifies all of it for accuracy. And finally, a finisher agent takes all that approved content and assembles it into the final HTML page, which is then double-checked by an HTML checker to make sure it looks perfect.
And here's the real game changer. All of this can run completely automatically, but at key moments, the author can just jump in. They can give simple language commands like, hey, delete this section, or make the table colors match the theme. This transforms AutoPage from just being a tool into a true collaborative assistant, and it ensures that the final product perfectly matches what the author had in their head. So we have this really elegant multi-agent system, but what does it actually deliver? The results are where this story gets really, really exciting, especially when we start talking about speed, cost, and quality. First up, speed. The system can take a dense academic paper and turn it into a beautiful, functional web page in under 15 minutes. I mean, that's a process that could take a researcher hours, if not days, to do by hand.
And now, the cost. Get this. On average, generating a single page costs less than 10 cents.
This isn't just an improvement, this is a revolutionary shift in the whole economics of scientific communication.
But is it any good? A user study answered that with a resounding yes. When people were asked to score pages generated by different AIs, they overwhelmingly preferred the ones made by AutoPage. It got an average score of 7.16 out of 10, which was significantly higher than all the baseline models.
In this table here, it brilliantly illustrates why it works so well. See, AutoPage isn't a brand new AI model. It's a framework that makes existing AIs better. You can take a standard model like GPT-4o Mini. On its own, it does an okay job. But when you run it through the AutoPage system, you see these significant improvements across the board in looks, in layout, and most importantly, in information accuracy.
So what does all this add up to? A massive economic impact. By making this whole process incredibly cheap, fast, and high quality, AutoPage is essentially democratizing scientific communication. You no longer need a big budget or a web designer to share your work. Any researcher anywhere in the world can now create a professional-looking project page in just a few minutes.
Naturally, this brings up the question of automation and jobs. And it's a fair question, but it's really important to see this for what it is. AutoPage isn't replacing the creative or the intellectual work of a researcher. It's automating a tedious, repetitive chore. It's freeing up human intellect to do what humans do best: discover, innovate, and push the boundaries of knowledge.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. When the friction of sharing knowledge is reduced to almost zero, when any discovery can be communicated clearly and beautifully in a matter of minutes, what does that do for the pace of science itself? What new breakthroughs are going to be accelerated when great ideas can travel faster than they ever have before?